everyone, Kalla here, welcome to my live stream, glad you could make it today. So today we are back to Hakuouki. Last time we made it onto Heisuke's routes here at the end of the Kyoto Winds half of this game and messed it up and got a bad ending. And no, I have not in fact fixed the save drag, because I realised, despite the fact I thought I was locked into not a good ending, when I looked at the guides, we had that extra choice after we got into this ending last time, which I believe means we are actually on the good ending, and I didn't actually monumentally mess it up. So, hooray. Hello Nick, hello Drag. You slept weird and your neck hurts? Yep, that is unfortunately the way things go. I have had a day. I had a great first day of the new job, and then I've had multiple disasters since I got home. And I'm in pain. But hey. Anyway. Shall we get into it? Right. Hopefully we have a good ending approaching us, and if we don't, I am going to have to fix the save. Yes, more specifically, we had to evacuate from Kyoto, and we're heading out for Edo now. Right. A few days later, our ship set sail from Osaka Bay. I couldn't sleep. The thought of these last few battles and our future made me too anxious. To calm my restlessness, I went up to the deck.
あれ、千鶴、どうしたんだ？こんな夜遅くに。
Hi there, Heisuke. I just couldn't sleep.
そっか。まあいろいろあったもんな。
The conversation took a pause, and the sound of the waves filled the space in our silence. Heisuke muttered as he watched the water gently lap at the hull of the ship.
もうすぐ5年になるんだな。
5 years already. Wow. Huh?
俺たちが江戸から京に出てきてだよ。
Yes, for them. It's not been far off for Chizuru, right?
京に出てくる前の司令官ってすっげえ貧乏でさ、明日の飯にも困るぐらいで、なのにしょっちゅう安酒飲みながらみんなで今の政治はおかしいって言い合ってたんだ。そんな時浪士組募集の話を聞いて一も二もなく飛びついたよ。これで飯の心配をしなくてもよくなる。 みんなとずっと一緒にいられるってな。
I could picture it vividly. If it was anything like what I'd seen of them in Kyoto, they'd be trading banter back and forth, having the time of their lives every day.
江戸にいた頃は尊王攘夷だってみんな言ってたんだけど、今日に行ったら逆に尊上老子を捕まえる側になっちまってさ。近藤さんや土方さんは侍になるってことだけで頭がいっぱいだったみてえだし、新八さんや佐野さんはまあみんなと一緒にいられればそれでいいって感じだったのかな。そんな時幕府の命令であの薬の研究をすることになって、俺はそのことをずっとおかしいって思ってて、他のみんなみてえに割り切ることなんてどうしてもできなくてさ。御領絵師になってからさ、伊藤さんに言われたんだ。あんな薬の研究を押し付けてくる幕府に尽くしていて、本当に報われる日が来ると思っているのって。そりゃそうだよなってその時は思ったけど、だからって伊藤さんが言ってることが全部正しいってわけじゃなかったんだよな。
The anguish and conflict inside of Heisuke must have been building for quite some time. What was right and what was wrong? What was the correct thing to do? The world was in turmoil and almost nobody had an immediate answer.
人一人ができることにはきっと限りがあるんだろうな。俺はいつの間にか身の丈に合わねえようなことをしようとしちまってたんだ。
I had to lean and grab my Heisuke plushie. He needs hugs again. Heisuke.
それでその後油麹で死にかけて、まだ死にたくねえって思いだけで羅刹になっちまって、夜にしか動けなくて、切られても撃たれても死なねえ体になって、人を殺してその血を浴びて、血が欲しくて体が震えちまって、とうとう化け物になっちまったと思ったけど、でもお前がいてくれた。
Under the starry night, Heisuke's smile was shy. It was a fleeting smile, one so delicate it felt like it could float away into the night.
ありがとうな、千鶴。お前がいてくれて本当によかった。
You don't have to thank me. It was quite the contrary. I had Heisuke to thank for his boundless energy and kindness. When I was first brought into the compound, he'd been the one who'd spoken up in my defense, saying they ought to let me go. I'd never forgotten that.
だから今なら自分が何をするべきか分かるような気がするんだ。天下国家とかこの日の本の未来とか、そんな大それたものじゃなくて、俺自身が守りたいもの、大切なもののためにこの力を使おうって。
Heisuke looked at me like he'd finally found peace.
約束する、千鶴。俺はもう新選組の8番組組長でも御領絵師でもない。表向きは死んだことになってる人間だ。羅刹になった以上、新選組とは切っても切れねえ関係になっちまったけど、お前を守りてえって気持ちだけは変わってない。これから先もずっと。
Voice was so faint that it was nearly drowned out as the waves crashed against the ship. But Heisuke's eyes told me everything that I needed to hear. Thank you, Heisuke. My hair blew from the winds of the great ocean, and I returned his vow with a gentle smile. Well, okay, there wasn't that much left of that when I left off last week, huh? January 1868. The Battle of Toba-Fushimi ended with the Satsuma and Choshu victorious. As the shogunate troops retreated, the Shinsengumi headed towards Edo. 4 years ago, I came to Kyoto by myself in search of my father and met the Shinsengumi. I was now leaving Kyoto, where I'd made such fond memories. He was resolved to move forward, even if the correct path was unclear, and I chose to walk alongside him. We would head to Edo, without knowing what fate awaited us. It's not much of a time skip, I don't think. I don't remember if we were already in January, or just at the end of December. But so here's the question: Does the game send us straight through into Edo Blossoms, or do I have to select it? Well, that answers that question. Straight through. I thought we'd picked an option for that at the beginning. Prologue. Winter 1863. I travelled to Kyoto in order to search for my father, with whom I'd lost contact. Okay, we're about to get a summary of the entire first game. that city, I bore witness to a horrifying secret hidden within a group called the Shinsengumi. The Furies, creatures with white hair and crimson eyes. Luckily, I was saved from the vicious clutches of the Furies by members of the Shinsengumi. Yeah, we are all good. I didn't need to save fix anyway. I made it without it. And now all of that is clear. We're beginning again, as it were. I think. If we have to save fix for the ending of this, we only have to come back this far. Since I had discovered their secrets, I ended up living with the Shinsengumi men as they were also searching for my father. I'd heard rumors, well, whispers really, that the Shinsengumi were a group of terrifying Ronin, but my life with them proved otherwise. Their commitment to protecting the safety of Kyoto made them the last of a dying breed, true warriors. It set them apart from those who only craved power and status. Amongst the men, Heisuke always seemed to have my back. Heisuke was the youngest captain, and he led the 8th Division. Since the two of us were closer in age than the other captains, we became quite close. However, he decided to leave the Shinsengumi in order to join the Guardians of the Imperial Tomb, led by Kashitaro Ito. In time, the Guardians would end up clashing with the Shinsengumi during the Aberano Koji incident. This incident, involving both the Satsuma and their demon affiliates, ended with Heisuke suffering a mortal wound. Then, he drank the water of life and became a Fury. Hansi Shogunate sentiments were spreading throughout the country, and war between the Shogunate and the Satsuma Choshu seemed inevitable. Thus began the Battle of Toba Fushimi. Heisuke served as a member of the Shinsengumi's Fury Corps during his campaign, and it became clear to him that he'd lost a crucial part of his humanity. The Satsuma Choshu, however, were ultimately victorious, and so the Shinsengumi were forced to flee Kyoto, a city they called home, and head for Edo. Opening sequence for this half. With, as you can see, new outfits. Chapter 1. January 1868. Yes, a lot more blood than this half. Yes, mostly because of the definitely not vampires. No, definitely not. Also, excuse me while I mourn Heisuke's long hair. After we returned to Edo, the Shinsengumi moved into a Hatamoto mansion, setting it up as their new headquarters. Edo, the Tokugawa shogunate's base of operations. It is both the Shinsengumi and the protagonist's hometown. Shinsengumi, a military unit made up of ronin mandated with restoring public order in Kyoto. They were supported by the Aizu domain and eventually became shogunate vassals. Hatamoto, high-ranking vassals of the shogun who had a right to a direct audience with him and received a stipend of less than 10,000 koku. Headquarters. The headquarters of the Shinsengumi, where members lived and took their meals, also referred to as the compound. The Shinsengumi headquarters in Edo were located beyond the Kajibashi Gate, in the mansion of former Wakadoshiori Tanetatsu Akizuki. There you go, lots of information there. However, the captains were absent more often than not. Hijikata had been filling in as acting chief in Kondo's stead, as the latter had suffered a serious gunshot wound, so he often met with shogunate leaders. Toshizo Hijikata, the commander of the Shinsengumi. He is a longtime friend of Kondo and helped him form the Shinsengumi in Kyoto. Kondo and Iba call him Toshi. Isami Kondo, one of the founders of the Shinsengumi, an organization created to help keep the peace in Kyoto. He's originally from Edo. Shogunate refers to the shogunate government. Here, it is pointing specifically to the Tokugawa shogunate. Yes, we are going to get a lot of terminology explained that we've already had explained, but that's because this is technically a separate game. Okita's tuberculosis was scarcely improving, and so he'd been sent away to recuperate. Also, the first game did not in fact state exactly what was wrong with Okita, but there you go, it's tuberculosis. And that's historically accurate. Also called Reasons Why I Was Very Concerned for Okita back when I very first played this game. Tuberculosis is really, really, really bad. It basically means his lungs are fucked. Worse than asthma. Asthma, I don't think has you coughing up blood. But I could be wrong. Tuberculosis is really, really, really bad. Soji Okita, captain of Shinsengumi's 1st Division. He returned to Edo but suffered from tuberculosis and is bedridden. Nagakura and Harada were both often found taking the new recruits out to enjoy the Edo nightlife. Because of course it's those two. Shinpachi Nagakura, captain of the Shinsengumi's 2nd Division. He is a skilled swordsman. He's upbeat and cheerful and frequently helps to raise the morale of the men under his command. Sanosuke Harada. Interestingly, not a 1 next to Sano's. Captain Shinsengumi's 10th Division. He's very skilled with the spear, which is his weapon of choice. There's a scar on his stomach for an attempted honourable suicide. Though they all had their own reasons for being absent. The members of the Fury Corps were not so lucky. They were confined to the compound. Fury Corps, a secret division made up of men who have become Furies. Sanan is in charge. It may have been necessary, but it was only a matter of time until their discontent manifested into something worse. I was worried about them, and even though they all seemed to be obeying Sanan's orders for the time being... Keisuke Sanan, the Shinsengumi's colonel. After injuring his left arm, he drinks the water of life and becomes a Fury, and later goes on to lead the Fury Corps. I had to wonder, was I imagining things? Or was this simply the calm before the storm? I couldn't shake the feeling. (1868) February. On one such day...
Yukimura-kun, 少々よろしいですか?
No, thank you. Yes? What is it? Sanan had snuck up on me, and in my surprise I muttered a timid answer.
確か君の家は江戸の外れにあるのでしたね。よろしければ私を案内してはくれませんか?
Why do you want to go there? He's clearly looking for information that was left by Chizuru's father, right? My house?
高堂さんは江戸にいた頃から幕府の密命で落ち水の研究を行っていたと聞きます。
Kodo Yukimura, the father of the protagonist. He has been missing since shortly after his arrival in Kyoto. He was experimenting on the Shinsengumi using the water of life. He's rumoured to be in Western Japan. Water of life, a substance imported from the West that turns those who drink it into Furies. Until refined by Kodo Yukimura, it was too toxic to use.
もしかすると君の家に羅刹に関する資料が隠してあるかもしれませんからね。
Yep, exactly. Searching through our father's stuff for info. Oh, come to think of it, if this led to an opportunity to find a way of suppressing the bloodlust of the Furies, or even a way to reverse the effects entirely, then... Furies. Creatures with heightened speed and strength, and the ability to heal from almost any wound. Drinking the water of life will transform a human into a Fury. One must stab a Fury through the heart, or remove its head in order to truly kill it. Bloodlust. A term used in reference to the ravenous thirst for blood that one develops after becoming a Fury. If not quenched, the body suffers agonizing pain. Isuke would no longer have to suffer. Keisuke Todo, captain of the Shinsengumi's 8th Division. He survived the Aberano Koji incident by becoming a Fury and rejoined the Shinsengumi. The official records show him as deceased. He's probably not captain of the 8th Division anymore, really. But could I truly take Sanan's word for it? Ever since our return to Edo, he had been acting very conspicuously. The way he was staring at me right now was also unsettling.
Yukimura-kun, どうしたのです?
Can Heisuke come with us? Well, I need to get approval from Hijikata before leaving.
本人がここにいればすぐに確認を取るのですがね。土方君は連日の会議でなかなか豚書へ戻ってこないと聞いています。それに
Man, I thought that was a wonderful excuse.
落ち水の毒を消す方法があるのなら一刻も早く手に入れたいでしょう。その方法を見つけ出せば東堂君を苦しみから解き放つことができるのですから。
Gonna hit me where it hurts, huh? Sanan's argument was valid. Nothing would make me happier than being able to save Heisuke, as well as all the others in the Fury Corps, from the pain of their condition. Still, I was a little scared of going alone with Sanan.
どうかしましたか。悩むことではないと思いますが。
Oh, well,
江戸の街並みも4年前と随分変わっちまったからな。途中で迷っちまうんじゃねえかって不安がってるんだろ
that voice!
う。だよな、千鶴。
Oh, good. We don't have the new clothes yet. Heisuke's hair is still fine. Heisuke! When did you get here?
それはついさっきから。三男さんがやけに熱心に話してるから出て行きにくくてさ。
Heisuke spoke jokingly, but then turned to Sanan, adopting a more serious tone.
つうことで、俺も一緒に行っていいか、三男さん。
君がですか？
Yeah, Heisuke's been here more recently. He'll be a good guide. I'm pretty sure he even went to Chizuru's house the last time he was back here, right?
俺、この間江戸に来た時、高堂さんの診療所を訪ねてるから道案内できるしさ。
Yes. Heisuke was referring to the time he'd visited Edo to recruit new members. He'd also gone out of his way to check my old house for signs of my father. It was quite some time ago, though. Which led me to believe he said it only to convince Sanan of letting him join our trip.
なるほど。ではせっかくですし、ご案内願いましょうか。
おう、任せてくれよ。そんじゃあ行こうぜ、千鶴。支度してこいよ。
Okay. Thank you, Heisuke. Yes, it was in fact like a year or two ago. It is more recently than we've been here. That's the more important part, yeah. Heisuke was looking out for me. His kindness made it impossible for me not to smile in return. After making our way out of the compound, we travelled to the outskirts of Edo, where my father's clinic still stood.
ここが高堂さんの診療所ですか。長らく人の出入りはない様子ですが。
I'm surprised it's in as good a state as it is. It was strange how such a familiar place to me had become so different in the span of years. The front of the house was dilapidated. The yard was overgrown with weeds. Sorry for having you come along to this, Heisuke.
気にすんなって。羅刹に関することを調べるんなら、俺も無関係ってわけじゃねえしな。それに。
Heisuke's tone became hushed, and he shot a sharp look in Sanan's direction. It seemed Heisuke shared my quiet suspicions about Sanan's motives. Scattered about were dusty books from the West with anatomical sketches, glass bottles and other mysterious vials. Western Book. A book with studies, culture and technologies brought over to Japan by the Dutch. Glassware. Refers to items made of glass. Rare in Edo period Japan. Father's study in particular contained tall stacks of documents and books. Cutting through the dust was a scent that reminded me of my childhood, when I would sneak in here and receive a scolding.
何から調べりゃいいんだ？前に来た時もこの家の中は一通り調べてみたけど、今回は目的が違うしな。
Yeah, last time Heisuke was here, he was looking for signs of life. That was about it. You looked around the house?
あ、どうした？
Did you go in my room?
いや、入ってねえよ。つうか、あの時はお前の部屋の場所なんて知らなかったし。
You sure?
本当だって。俺だって女の部屋に勝手に入ったりしねえよ。
二人ともふざけている場合ではありませんよ。もし羅刹に関する資料を見つけたら、そこに置いておいてください。私が目を通します。
ああ、わかった。
Basically, throw anything that looks relevant at Sanan. Got it. With that, three of us split up the materials and combed through them in search of any clue we could find about the Water of Life or Furies. The sound of rustling paper and pages being turned echoed in the quiet room. Strangely enough, I felt myself being taken back to the days when I'd lived with Father in this house. One of his habits was meticulously reading through his papers well into the night. Where could Father be right now? Father... Just as the words escaped my lips.
千鶴、どうしたんだ?
Oh, Heisuke. Sorry, it's nothing. Have you found anything?
いや、それが全然。なんせここ本が多いからさ。
Looks like it. Say, where's Sanan?
あっちだ。
Heisuke's voice was a whisper as he signaled the direction Sanan had been in with his chin. Together, we silently observed Sanan focus as he rapidly flipped through a thick dust-coated pile of documents. I wonder if Sanan's found anything useful yet.
わからねえ。そもそもあの人が何の目的でここに来るって言い出したのかもわからねえしな。
His real reasons? Didn't he say he wanted to look for documents to help him better understand the nature of the Furies and the Water of Life?
表向きはな。だけど、あの人がどこまで本当のことを言ってるかはわからねえ。三男さんは同じように羅刹になったぐらいで本音を明かしてくれるような人じゃねえし。
I suddenly felt a sense of dread bubble in the pit of my stomach that compelled me to grab Heisuke's sleeve.
千鶴。
This caught Heisuke by surprise. He then seemed to realize how nervous I was.
平気だよ。何があっても、お前のことは俺が守ってやるからさ。
Okay. His words alone were enough to soothe my anxiety a little bit. I wondered how he was able to do so. Being with him made me feel calmer somehow. Was this feeling... I caught myself in contemplation when... That seemed like a familiar silhouette. The sound of footsteps came from the other side of the door.
なんだ、誰の足音だ。まさか行動さんか。
物取りかもしれません。東堂君、戦いの支度を。
おわ、分かってる。
Well, yes, I am somewhat surprised all of this stuff is still here, given that this has been empty for so long. Both Heisuke and Senan gripped the hilts of their swords. The footsteps grew louder and louder, coming closer. Finally, the door slid open. It was our good friend Princess Sen, right? Based on the silhouette.
あら、おかしいわね。
Senhime!
みんながここに来てるっておきくは言ってたんだけど、もしかして見間違いだったのかしら、それとも入れ違い？
Her voice! It was Sen! Sen? What are you doing here? Princess Sen, one of the demons the protagonist met in Kyoto. She's close in age to the protagonist, and she often checks in on her.
あ、千鶴ちゃん、やっぱりここにいたのね。そっちは確か東堂さんと三男さんだったかしら。
ああ、あの時は世話になったな。
君は確か鬼の姫と名乗っていた少女でしたか。
Demon. Stronger and more powerful than humans, they have rapid healing powers. Chikage Kazama, Kyo Shiranoi, and Kyuju Amagiri are among their numbers.
ここに一体何の用です？
あなた方に伝えなきゃいけないことがあるのよ。だけどその前に、千鶴ちゃん、あの後どうだった？風間に変なちょっかい出されてない？
Chikage Kazama, a demon affiliated with the Satsuma domain. He heads the Kazuma clan and seeks the protagonist as his bride. Oh, yes. He hasn't bothered me since we came to Edo.
そう、それならよかったわ。意外と物分かりがいいのね、あいつ。
Perhaps he's got more sense than I thought. So, what brings you here?
あ、そうそう。実はね、おきくに調べてもらったのよ。
Kimigiku, a demon who serves Princess Sen as her personal bodyguard and spy. She works as a Geigi in Shimabara to gather information from her clients.
西洋から渡ってきたあの忌まわしい薬、落ち水や羅刹のことをね。
The moment Sen brought up the serum, it felt like the room dropped 10 degrees.
なかなか興味深いお話を伺えそうですね。
Yes, the exact information that we were here looking for.
聞かせてもらいましょう。あの薬は一体何なのです？
落ち水はもともと私たちこの国の鬼とは似て非なる生き物。
Which is like and yet unlike these demons.
遠くフランスの地より渡来した西洋の鬼の生き地と言われているわ。
French demons! Clearly slightly different to Japanese demons.
ってことは、異国にもあんたらと同じ鬼の一族がいるってことか。
厳密には同じじゃないけどね。負った傷がすぐ治ったり、人をしのぐ体力や素早さを持ってるのは日の本の鬼と同じだけど、私たち鬼は日の光を意味嫌ったり、人の血を求めたりはしないもの。
It sounds like the French demons are in fact vampires.
そして西洋の鬼は自分の血を人間に飲ませることで仲間を増やすことができるみたいね。
Ah, yes.
つまり羅刹が日の光に弱くて血に狂ったりするのは落ち水が失敗作だったからじゃなく、西洋の鬼がもともとそういう生き物だからなのか。
How to turn a French demon into a Japanese demon, is that a new goal? Yeah. I wonder what weird quirk of evolution resulted in this.
そういうことになるわ。
I felt the same way as I had the first time Senna told me about demons. What she had just described to us seemed like a fairy tale, written and told in the interest of scaring young children. However, I had seen people turn into furies with my very eyes, time and time again. I had seen their eyes become red once the thirst for blood began to consume every fiber of their being.
なるほど。実に興味深い。
Yeah, sorry, Sonan. Apparently we can't fix this.
つまり我々羅刹となった者の血を人間に飲ませれば、そのものを羅刹へと変えられるというわけですか。
Gross, Sonan.
ある意味、あなた方鬼の一族よりも優れた生き物と言えるかもしれませんね。
バカなことを言わないで。人間の体を無理やり私たち鬼と同等の生き物の体へと変えてしまっているのに、心だけ人のままでいられるはずがないでしょ。身の丈に合わない力の代償は高くつくわよ。
吸血衝動のことでしょう。それは無論存じていますよ。
それだけじゃないわ。あなた方もよく知っている通り、羅刹と化した者は鬼とほぼ同等の力、そして治癒力を得る。だけどその土台はあくまでも人間の体のままなのよ。
何が言いたいのです。回りくどい物言いは感心しませんね。
生来の鬼と違い、人の脆弱な体では鬼が持つ強大な力に耐えられない。その代償はあなた方自身の寿命で払うことになる。
Well, fuck.
羅刹として力を振るうたび、あるいは傷を治癒するたび、あなた方の命はどんどん削られていくわ。
It meant, on the one hand, an increase in strength and also regenerative power. On the other hand, shortened lifespan. What? For a moment, I couldn't quite comprehend what Sen was saying.
命をってことはまさか。
Suddenly, it all clicked. It to chip away at one's lifespan. Are you telling me that Heisuke and Sanan... For a split second, Sen seemed unsure whether to answer me or not. Eventually,
幕府が行った実験では力を使い切った羅刹は一人の例外もなく灰のように崩れて消えてしまったそうよ。
well, that would be why we couldn't find a body in the bad end, huh? My mind went blank. Crumbled to ash? Who would? Heisuke and Sanan? No! An icy shiver ran down the length of my spine.
なんだよそれ。俺も三男さんももうじき死んじまうってことか。しかもただ死ぬんじゃなか灰になって消えちまうって。
信じられないのも無理はないけど忠告だけはしておこうと思ったの。少しでも長く生きたいなら羅刹の力なんて使うべきじゃないわ。
ご忠告痛み入りますよ。
Sanan was acting quite calm, which is terrifying. Maybe he was unconvinced or even highly skeptical. His eyes narrowed, scanning Sen from head to toe. Sen turned to face me.
このことについてはお菊に頼んでもう少し詳しく調べてもらうつもりだけど、みんなは今どこを拠点にしてるの？
For the moment, we've rented a mansion owned by one of the Hatamoto. I don't think we would be difficult to locate if you asked for directions to the Shinsengumi headquarters.
そう。それじゃあ何か分かったらそっちに知らせるわね。あなたももし私に何か用事があれば松本先生を通じて知らせてちょうだい。
Ah, good old Dr. Matsumoto. Ryojin Matsumoto, a respected doctor who works for the Tokugawa shogunate, affiliated with the Shinsengumi. Dr. Matsumoto? Are the two of you acquainted, Sen?
高堂さんの行方を探している時に知り合ったのよ。幕府や諸藩の高い位についている人は私たちの存在を知ってるって言ったでしょ。松本先生は将軍校の御殿医を務めていらっしゃった方だし、知り合うつてはいくらでもあるわ。
Shogun. The head of the government organized by scattered feudal land holdings and managed large-scale military in order to enforce and regulate huge governmental jurisdiction. Shogunate Doctor, one of the many medical professionals under the employ of the Tokugawa shogunate. I see. What a small world. It comforted me somewhat, knowing that I had someone I could count on nearby.
それじゃあ私はこれで。また会いましょうね、千鶴ちゃん。
With that, Sen left us. After her departure, I glanced over at Sanan and Heisuke, whose expressions bordered on catatonic. Sen's news had been quite shocking indeed.
決め手となる資料を見つけることはできませんでしたが、ある意味価値のある情報を得ることができましたね。
Sanan's words were chilling. He suddenly turned away from us. Sanan, where are you going?
先に帰らせてもらいます。これ以上得られるものはなさそうですし、少し考えをまとめたいですからね。
Without another word, Sanan hurried out of the building. Yeah, because of course, Sanan wasn't even mortally wounded when he turned himself into a fury either. His sword arm was just horrendously injured. So I guess the news that by restoring himself to the ability to fight, he's shortened his life. I guess that would be difficult. Heisuke and I were left alone. Sen's words ran through my head.
羅刹として力を振るう旅、あるいは傷を治癒する旅、あなた方の命はどんどん削られていくわ。
And the more they used them, the quicker the end would come. I wondered how Heisuke had taken all of this. The thought was so frightening I couldn't look him in the eye. I stared nervously at the floor. Suddenly, I felt a soft hand on my shoulder. Does the Fury powers apply to us? Nope, we're not a Fury. We're a regular Japanese demon. We don't have this problem. In fact, we have the opposite part, which is going to make even a good ending here bittersweet. Because we're going to live a hell of a lot longer than he is. That would have been true even if he'd stayed human.
そんな顔すんなって。知りたくねえこともあったけど、いろいろ分かったし、一歩前進ってとこだろ。
But doesn't it scare you, Heisuke? If what she said was true, then soon you and Sanan will be...
そりゃまあ、怖くねって言えば嘘になるけど。でも、この力がなければ俺、とっくに死んじまってた人間だし。それにさ、力を使いすぎなければもう少し生きられるってことだろ。ならこの先力を使わなきゃいいだけの話じゃねえか。なあ。
Heisuke's tone was hollow, giving me the impression that not even he believed the words he was saying. If the fighting intensified, then he wouldn't have a choice. And then he would inevitably turn to ash and be scattered in the wind.
おい、千鶴、元気出せって、ほら。
What should I tell him? Right, I'm going to make a full-on save here, since this is our first choice for this section. Just in case we need to come back to the beginning of this game because we've messed up. And then I'm going to do a quick save. And I'm pretty sure you don't have to put up a front field like the right one. Maybe. Heisuke, you don't have to put up a front.
俺別に無理なんて。
Yes, you are. It's hard enough for me to see you feign a smile through all of this. I looked deeply into his eyes. Hidden behind his wide, bright eyes, I could see his confusion and anxiety lurking underneath. How could he not be? Knowing your death was set in stone was far more frightening than having it come upon you suddenly. I know there isn't much I can do for you, but All I ask is you be honest with me. If you're ever having a hard time, just say it. The last thing I want is for you to feel you have to act tough for my sake, so please.
しづらい
Heisuke dug his teeth into his lips, then offered me a smile once more.
ありがとな。そんな風に言ってくれて。でも無理すんなって頼みだけは聞けねえよ。俺見えっ張りだからさ。無理でも強がりでもやっぱほ。
What? The woman you what? The woman you what, Heisuke?
じゃなくて、お前の前だとどうしてもカッコつけたくなるんだ。
Heisuke. Even when confronted with the sobering reality that he could die at any moment, he's still forced to smile. But this smile resonated a little differently to the one he'd shared with me only moments earlier. It was one meant to reassure me. You know, I just wish you'd let your guard down in front of me, but you aren't going to do so, are you?
そういうこと。それからお前何もできねえって言ってたけど、そんなことねえから。俺はお前がこうやってそばにいてくれるだけで十分嬉しいし、本当にありがとな。
Seeing Heisuke be so cheerful only made my heart ache more. And no matter how much pain he was in, he would always smile and put my peace of mind first. A brisk, chilly winter wind blew outside of my old home.
お前寒くねえか。
No, I'm fine. But winter's almost over. Spring's right around the corner.
春か。去年の今頃って何してたっけ？
I think...
ああ、思い出した。伊藤さんたちと一緒に離隊したのがちょうど桜の時期だったっけ？
Kashitaro Ito, former Shinsengumi's military advisor and deputy commander, who was the older brother of Saburo Miki. He established the Guardians of the Imperial Tomb but was assassinated by the Shinsengumi during the Aberano Koji incident.
たった1年前の話なんだよな。
Heisuke's eyes narrowed with nostalgia, and he let his gaze wander. The memory of Heisuke's departure was one that I wasn't exactly eager to revisit. It had shattered me to think that our farewell might have been the last time either of us would see or speak to one another ever again. And that wasn't all. Heisuke nearly died during the Aberano Koji incident, and it took the Water of Life to resurrect him as a fury. Aberano Koji incident, an internal dispute among the Guardians of the Imperial Tomb. Would Heisuke live long enough to welcome another spring beside me? The thought was so ominous, I hurried to cast it aside.
どうした？
Oh, what do you mean?
いや、なんか落ち込んだ顔してたからさ。
Can we just rename Water of Life to Vampiric Blood? Well, that is kind of basically what it is. That is true. It doesn't sound as good though, does it? Oh, well, nothing. It's just nothing. After everything that happened today, I'm a little distracted.
別にお前が悩むことじゃねえんだぞ。 俺たちが羅刹になったのはお前のせいじゃねえし。
Heisuke might have seen it that way, but it was my father that exposed this evil, the water of life, to the Shinsengumi all those years ago. So it wasn't as if it didn't concern me entirely.
さて、もうすぐ夜が明けちまうし、そろそろ豚舎に戻るか。
Yeah, you're right. I started to prepare for the journey back. Okay, ready to leave? You sure you didn't leave anything behind here? Heisuke?
いや、あのさ、今ちょっと考えたんだけど、さっき千姫が言ってたろ。羅刹は力を使い尽くせば灰になるって。
Yes, that's what she said.
三男さんが羅刹になってからもう3年は経つはずだよな。それなのにあの人の体に異常が出てねえのはおかしいと思わねえか。
Ah, wonderful thought. Yeah, Sanan's been a fury for a bit longer than most people. Now that you mention it, Sanan had ample opportunities to use his fury powers in battle throughout these last few years. He'd even crossed blades with Kazama and the other demons. And yet, his body seemed to have suffered none of the effects described by Sen, nor did he seem affected by bloodlust. Do you think what Sen said was wrong?
それはどうかわからないけど、実際吸血衝動の方は起きて。
Surely they would have like 30 plus years without being a fury. I wonder, what was the average life expectancy? Yeah, but they're saying, but from what they've said, other people who've been turned into furies have already turned to ash. And those would be people, those would be soldiers around the same age. Heisuke cut himself short and suddenly doubled over with an agonized groan. Heisuke, what's wrong? Speaking of bloodlust, from his forehead dripped thick beads of sweat, and Heisuke clasped his hands tightly around his throat. I'd seen this before, it must be...
そうすればなんとかってやつか。
Alright. It's time for delicate balancing act time. In fact, actually, this should be the save. This should be the hard save that we make. I wanna have a look here. There you go. Welcome! Welcome the second stat. Corruption. Currently, low. We've got the affection meter up the top, like we had before. Back to being closed again, because we're starting from 0 again. And yes, corruption low. Alright. I don't remember how we do this. Although, the way we made it through to that good ending was the make him endure it option. So, I'm going to work with that one. And I'm going to feel very bad about it. because it's going to hurt. Perhaps the cruelest option was to tell him to endure this torment until it passed. I could only stand still, unable to bring myself to say it out loud. Heisuke dug his fingernails into his chest, scratching madly at his skin as screams forced their way out of him. How many more times would Heisuke have to suffer like this? How many more times would I have to watch Heisuke writhe in unfathomable pain? Heisuke! There was nothing else I could say. All I could do was continue to softly rub the small of his back. Out of interest, what did that do to the corruption meter? Well, shit! Critical. A few days later, by order of the shogunate, the Shinsengumi was to head out to Kofu Castle, bearing the new name Koyu Regulatory Company, in order to avoid provoking the Imperial Army. Imperial Army, led by the Sacho troops, a westernized army using state-of-the-art weapons, also made up of various troops from domains who submitted to the Empire of Japan. Koyu Regulatory Company, a name given to the Shinsengumi by the shogunate as a formal title on their mission to Kofu. Kofu Castle. Ieyasu Tokugawa established this castle as the last line of defense to protect Edo's western side. So we need to give Heisuke enough blood to keep the corruption low, but not enough. Yeah, basically. Blood or medicine, I think, works, but I could be wrong. As I said, it has been a while since I last played Hakuouki. But yeah, I think we might need either blood or medicine next time. Kondo had finally returned after his long absence, and the first thing he did was relay the order. While everyone geared up for the expedition to Kofu, the Fury Corps were ordered to remain behind, as there would be too many eyes on us. For many warriors, this expedition was their first ever opportunity to gain merit on the battlefield. But for the veterans, this order only reminded them that each expedition brought the threat of losing more allies. This was to be our first large-scale battle since Toba Fushimi, and I couldn't stop my anxiety from rising. Battle of Toba Fushimi, a battle that erupted in January 1868 in Kyoto's Toba and Fushimi. It was a battle between the new government and the shogunate troops. The shogunate troops lost. On one of the nights leading up to our departure, Hijikata summoned me to join the men in the common room. As I approached, I heard the buzz of conversation on the other side of the sliding doors.
やっぱりこの格好変じゃね？すっげえぴったりして窮屈だし。
I think it's new outfit time. Was that Heisuke's voice? I wondered what could be suffocating him. Hijikata, this is Yukimura. May I come in?
Oh, hi there.
I slid the door open. To my surprise, it was something entirely unexpected. I miss Heisuke's hair already.
しずる、見てくれよこれ。やっぱりこの格好おかしいよな。
first, I barely recognized the man standing in front of me. I stood still, dumbfounded.
おい、千鶴、聞いてんのか?
Oh. I mean, his voice was Heisuke's and his height was Heisuke's, but was this really Heisuke?
なんだよ、呆れられちまってるじゃねえか。やっぱりこれ変だって、土方さん。
ごちゃごちゃうるせえな。そんなもん一日もありゃ見慣れるだろうが。
Why is so much haircutting been going on here?
そもそもなんでいきなり様相にしろなんて言い出したんだよ。今日にいた頃は散々上位上位って言ってた土方さんがさ。
銃を扱うにはこっちの方が便利だからな。
それじゃあ俺和装のままでもよかったんじゃね？曲げまで切られてすっげえかっこ悪くなっちまったみてえだしさ。
Yeah, Hijikata, why'd you make him cut his hair? That's the bit I'm complaining about. Heisuke glanced over at me indignantly, raising his voice that visibly irritated Hijikata. How? Oh, wait, I never said you looked stupid.
どうかよ。驚いた顔のまま固まってたじゃねえか。
Well, I mean, with his hair so short, he looked so different. So, dare I say, well, Chizuru likes it. Ming.
なんか言ったか?
My eyes met his and instantly my cheeks burst into flames. Nothing! You look very handsome. I stuttered out my words, unable to look him in the eye.
そっか。まあお前がそう言うならしばらくこの格好でいてもいいか。
筒袖の品定めは後にしろ。お前らを呼びつけた理由は別にあるんだからよ。
Form-fitting clothes. It refers to Western-style clothing with short, tight sleeves without inner pockets, or Japanese clothing that had them. Being tighter, they make it easier to fire guns, unlike traditional sleeves, which flutter and might prove a hindrance. And you might manage to set them on fire, probably. Actually, would you? It's... What sort of rifles is it at this point? I think we're beyond matchlock, so maybe you're less likely to set yourself on fire. I don't know if it's flintlock or wheel lock, and I'll need to see them to be sure.
ああ、そういやそんなこと言ってたっけ。で、何なんだ、要件って。
We saw one in the OP. Was I paying attention then? No. Although now I think about it, I think it may have been a wheel lock. I'll check the next time we see them.
甲府での戦いについてだがな。もしかすると負け戦になるかもしれねえ。
Kofu, a territory to the west of Edo under the jurisdiction of the shogunate. No specific lord or domain governs this plot of land. A lost cause? Don't you think it's a little early to call? The battle hasn't even started yet.
どんだけ戦力差があっても絶対勝てるなんてことはねえよ。負けた場合の備えを万全にしておきてってことだろ。
平助の言う通りだ。城を先に取ることができりゃ負けはねえはずだが、戦に絶対なんてことはねえからな。
Suddenly, the grim events of Toba Fushimi came flooding back to me, making the hairs on my arms stand. At the end of the battle, even with almost triple the manpower that was brought by the Sacho, the Shogunate's army was humiliated and forced to retreat. Shogunate's army originally refers to the army commanded by the Tokugawa Shogunate, or an army which had assembled. Eventually, it came to refer to any troops that fought for the shogunate side. Sacho, a colloquial name to refer to the joint forces of the Satsuma and Choshu domains. Hijikata had calculated that the odds of this happening again were high. If victory isn't assured, then would it be better for us not to fight? I don't think we have that option, Chizuru. We have orders, right?
戦で勝たねえ限り俺たちに上がり目はねえからな。このままじゃろくに戦わねえうちに幕府側が負けちまわねえとも限らね
なるほど。まあそうだよな。
え。負けるとしてもできるだけこっちの被害は軽くするつもりだ。お前らはその後の再起の支度をしておいてくれ。松本先生と協力してありったけの銃と銃弾を集めておくんだ。できるな。
Find guns. Okay.
あ、わかった。つうか土方さんってほんと転んでもただじゃ起きねえ人だよな。
Heisuke was right. Hijikata had learned the lessons of Toba Fushimi. He was neither too optimistic nor too cynical. Instead, he kept both his successes and his failures in mind as he planned his next move. However, there was something I was curious about. After a pause, I told Hijikata what was on my mind. Excuse me, Hijikata? Should I join you all on the way to Kofu?
お前はここにいろ。さっきも言ったが、今回の戦には勝てねえかもしれねえ。ま、ここも安全とは言い切れねえがな。
なんだよそれ。俺たちじゃこいつを守りきれねえってことか？ひでえこと言ってくれるよな。
別にお前の力を疑ってるわけじゃねえさ。近頃江戸市中に辻斬りが出るって噂があるんだ。
Murders?
それ俺も聞いたことあるぜ。夜出歩いてるやつが老若男女問わず殺される事件が立て続けに起こってるってんだろ。
ああ、俺も現場を見てきたがひでえもんだったぜ。仏さんは元の形がわからねえほどめった切りにされちまってるときた。
Well, doesn't that sound suspiciously like what happened to the people that the Fury Corps came into contact with? Wonder why Sanan's not suffering from bloodlust problems.
今日にいた頃似たような話を聞いたことはねえか。
ひょっとして三男さんの。
証拠はねえがな。
During our time in Kyoto, Sanan, who led the Fury Corps, became notorious for slaughtering outlaw Ronin during his nighttime patrols. Ronin outlaws. Ronin who don't have a residence or purpose and just roam around the streets. Even slaughtering seems like a tame description, given that the victims were maimed and dismembered beyond recognition. But this time, the victims aren't just Ronin outlaws, but civilians in Edo, right? I don't think Sanan would go that far.
証拠はねって言っただろうが。だが万一の備えはしておくべきだろう。今話したことは三男さんには絶対に言うんじゃねえぞ。
Well, of course.
平介、お前は留守中、三男さんから絶対に目を離さねえようにしろ。ついでに雪村のお守りもしとけ。いいな。
ああ、わかった。
Starting tomorrow, Isuke, the Fury Corps, and myself were all expected to remain at headquarters. I hoped Hijiketa's warnings were just that, warnings. But hope could only take me so far, and the feeling of dread in my stomach showed no sign of stopping. I was alone in my room, arranging my bedding for the night when everyone else had left for Kofu already. Footsteps creaked from the other side of my door. Who was it? My curiosity got the better of me. I peeked my head out of the door and I walked down the hall in the direction of where I'd heard the steps. As I made my way outside of the compound, I heard...
千鶴、こっちだ。
Isuke quietly waved me over, and I scurried over to hide with him. Isuke, what are you doing here?
羅刹隊の奴らの様子がおかしかったから、先回りしてここに隠れてたんだ。
Wait, so those footsteps I heard earlier were from the men in the Fury Corps?
ああ、あいつらこれからどこかへ出かけるみてえだな。
Wonder where they're going. What's Sanan up to?
部屋で書き物をしてたのを見たぜ。
Does that mean he has nothing to do with it this time? Like, maybe he had nothing to do with this?
どうかな。まだわからねえ。それよりあいつらがシチューに出て何をするつもりなのかを確かめねえと。
Yeah, because they're not supposed to be leaving.
ついてこい、千鶴。俺の後ろを離れるんじゃねえぞ。
Will do. Together, Heisuke and I covertly followed after the gang of Furies leaving the compound. After 10 minutes, we'd reached a stop when... A blood-curdling scream shrieked in the distance, followed by the grisly sound of ripping flesh. Oh no! It meant...
千鶴、急ぐぞ。
Heisuke sprinted off and I followed close behind. By the time we arrived at the scene, it was too late. A lurid scattering of ripped flesh and limbs was sprawled across the bloody street. Two ghastly furies, hair white and covered in blood, sadistically hacked into the bodies lying helplessly along the pathway. With each jab and slash came a splash of blood, filling the air with a horrid stench. The victims were already disfigured beyond recognition, but their hair and clothing made one thing clear. They were ordinary townspeople.
お前ら、本当に。
Also, surely there are more efficient ways to be drinking blood than getting it everywhere.
してやがったんだな。
Heisuke's right fist trembled fiercely. I couldn't blame him. Surely he'd never wanted to believe that his own fellow Furies were capable of committing such gruesome murders just to obtain blood. One of the Furies turned to face Heisuke. His blood-stained lips curled into a warped smirk. There was no trace of sanity left behind their red glowing eyes. All that remained was a primal urge festering within them to kill and drink.
もう血に狂っちまってるな。生かしておくわけにはいかねえ。
Heisuke bit his lip and drew his sword.
しずる、物陰に隠れてろ。いいって言うまで出てくるんじゃねえぞ。
But Heisuke!
わかったな。
I hid as he asked, but would he really be okay? Could he kill men that up until today had eaten, slept, and served alongside him as his allies? One of the Furies broke into a maniacal cackle as he lunged for Heisuke's throat. Heisuke read his movements and evaded a series of blows. Then he spotted the instant the Fury showed an opening. Heisuke lunged forward and thrust his sword into the Fury's sternum. Yep, straight through the heart, the way you have to do it. The Fury screamed in pain and stumbled back. Oh, no, didn't. Heisuke must have just missed his heart. Admittedly, by stabbing directly at the sternum, it's going to be very difficult to hit the heart because it's, like, behind the sternum, right? You gotta sort of come in at an angle. Before Heisuke could catch his breath, the other Fury took his chance to leap onto Heisuke. Take another stab at it, Harnick. Low-hanging fruit when it comes to puns right there. Really? I said pun and you appear, Ethel? Really? Hello, how are you doing? Heisuke swung his sword to parry the incoming attack, but he hadn't caught it fast enough. Blood erupted from a wide gash in his shoulder. Watch out, Heisuke! I jumped out of hiding, unable to stand by and watch any longer. I couldn't take a Fury on by myself, but I should be able to provide some backup at least. I steeled my resolve and drew my Kodachi. Not a second after I made myself visible, I drove my Kodachi into the arm of the Fury attacking Heisuke, distracting it for just long enough. But Heisuke, you would have... Huh? I whirled around. Something sharp was driven into my chest. I heard someone desperately scream my name. I felt someone hold me up. My eyes couldn't focus. I thought Heisuke might be right there in front of me, but I just couldn't make out his face. I'm so sorry, Heisuke. It looks like we can't be together anymore. Yep, Apparently we needed to give Heisuke some blood earlier. Yeah, this is... Hey Drag, you remember how I said there are so many more ways to die in this half? Because there are so many more ways to die in this half. Yeah, the fact that that corruption meter said said critical should have been a warning. Anyway, medicine. Heisuke, take the medicine. Medicine, a chemical mixture that works to suppress symptoms of bloodlust. Alright, see ya, Athril. Heisuke pulled the medicine out from his pulled the medicine from out of his pocket and shoved it into his mouth. Heisuke tried to offer words to comfort me, but Senan made it abundantly clear that the medicine didn't work right away. It was only a stopgap. Heisuke's face glistened with a thick sheen of sweat, grimacing with each strained word he spoke. And yet he still forced a smile in an effort to reassure me. Heisuke, I couldn't possibly leave him to bear this all alone. Until the medicine took effect, I stayed beside him, holding him close to me. And now we check what that did. Hey look, it's still low! So yeah, we have to deal with the bloodlust in some way, basically. Right, let's skip our way through to where we were. Heisuke! Heisuke kept on slashing wildly, blood streaming from his injured shoulder. Indeed, the bleeding already seemed to have stopped. But should he really be using those powers? Sen had said that each time he used his powers to fight or to heal, it would only chip away at his remaining lifespan. To make matters worse, in spite of his best efforts, Heisuke struggled to land a vital blow on either of the Furies. Each wound he made healed in a flash, and Heisuke was starting to show signs of fatigue. Maybe, just maybe, just as it seemed the situation had turned dire. I see you have a new outfit too, Kazama.
寸足らずの子犬といえど、この程度の相手に手こずるほどひ弱ではなかったはずだが。
Voice! Just as I registered who it was, a white sword flashed in the dark, reflecting the light of the stars. The next instant... Where was he the first time round? Well, I mean, this is slightly after the point at which we got stabbed time-wise, so, he probably watched us die. Cries of despair echoed eerily, one after the other. Each fury dropped to the floor, pools of blood forming under their lifeless bodies. There was no mistaking it. Few beings in this world were capable of subduing a pair of furies so effortlessly. So, not just Kazama, actually. Kyuju Amagiri, a demon affiliated to the Satsuma domain. He is a master of hand-to-hand combat and is often seen with Kazama.
江戸市中の動静を探るためこうして足を運んだまでです。
あのまがい者どもは貴様ら新選組が飼っている連中だ。なぜ奴らが辻斬りを働いているのだ。貴様らの命令か。
そんな命令するわけねえだろ。俺はあいつらを追ってきたんだよ。
Hisuke shouted back, but Kazuma and Amagiri looked at him suspiciously.
江戸の町を騒がせている辻斬り事件は昨日今日始まったものではないと聞いています。
貴様は承知しておらぬとしても、あのまがい者の頭目、確か三男という名だったが、奴はこやつらが狼藉を働いていることを知っているのではない。
Yeah, I doubt Sanan is unaware.
ヤセの女鬼に免じて貴様らに手出しはせぬが。
Yase clan, an ancient demon clan based in Kyoto. They are one of the oldest demon clans and used to govern them all.
死に狂ったまがい者を野放しにしておくほど我々は
あなた方はもともと今日の治安を守るという役目を仰せつかっていたはずです。血を得るため江戸の人々を殺めることがあなた方の本意なのかどうか今一度考えてみては。
After saying their piece, both Kazama and Amagiri vanished like mist into the night.
分かってるよ、そんなことは。
Hisuke stared bitterly at the ground as he sheathed his sword. How's your shoulder, Hisuke?
傷なら平気だよ。もう塞がっちまったから。それよりもさっき風間が言ってたことだけど。
You mean the fact that Sanan is aware that his furies are murdering innocent people?
実際どうかはわからねえけど、三男さんって頭は回る人だからな。羅刹隊の奴らが豚書を抜け出して辻斬りを働いてたことに今まで気づかなかったはずがねえんだ。
Then
とりあえず豚書に戻ったら本人に直接確かめてみよう。素直に答えてくれるかどうかはわからねえけどな。
yeah, I'm not sure confronting him about it is gonna help. Right. For now, we had to escape the scene before anyone noticed us. What do we do with these bodies, Heisuke? A dim, melancholic expression formed on Heisuke's face.
ここに置いていくしかねえ。 町の人に新選組大使だってことを気づかれることはねえはずだ。
I see. In this moment, I recalled my first night in Kyoto when I'd been cornered by that group of Furies. Hijikata and the rest of the Shinsengumi men had spoken nonchalantly, despite standing above the hair-raising display of corpses strewn across the alley. I had figured that the Shinsengumi had witnessed such a sight so many times they'd grown numb to it. But it seemed that Heisuke, at least, never had. Or at least, that was the impression I got from the devastated look on his face. There was something else, too. Hey, Heisuke? I know that earlier Kazama was just taunting you, but why did you hesitate before killing that Fury?
あれは油断してただけだよ。あいつら素早かったからな。
Heisuke averted his eyes, as if he didn't want me prying any further.
そんなことより、ほら、戻るぞ。
Without another word, Heisuke spun around and headed off in the direction of our headquarters. His actions did little to convince me that I was wrong. We silently walked home together. As soon as we'd arrived at the compound, Heisuke briefed Sanan on the entire incident.
なるほど。羅刹隊の者が血を得るために辻斬りを働いていたと。うかつでしたね。彼らをもっと厳重に監視しておくべきでした。
三男さん、あんた本当に知らなかったのか？あんたほどの人があいつらがやってたことに気づかなかったなんてありえねえと思うんだけど。
Accidental. Heisuke asked him straight out, but
買いかぶりすぎですよ。私は神でも仏でもありませんからね。不意をつかれることもあります。
Sanan's expression remained unperturbed. Whether he was telling the truth, or if he was fooling us with a or if he was fooling us with a straight face, I had no way of knowing. Sorry about that.
話はそれだけですね。では、私はそろそろ失礼させてもらいますよ。
Oh! With that, Sanan stood up and returned to his room.
ごまかされちまったな。まあ、真正面から聞いて答えてくれる人だとは思ってなかったけどさ。
What are we going to do now? The culprits behind those recent murders had already been dealt with. So if Sanan was telling the truth, we should have nothing to worry about.
三男さんを問い詰めるとしたら、言い逃れできねえよう現場を抑えるしかねえだろうな。
Gotta catch him red-handed. But is that something we could actually do?
わからねえ。とりあえず土方さんが戻ってくるまでは三男さんから目を離さねえようにしようぜ。
Okay, got it.
さてと、もうすぐ夜も明けちまうし、そろそろ休むことにするか。さすがに眠くなってきちまった。
Right, I'll get your bedding out.
あのさ、千鶴。
Yes?
ありがとな。三男さんのこととか、羅刹のこととか。多分、俺一人じゃ抱えきれなかったと思う。
There's no need to thank me. I'm more than happy to help you. After assuring him, I left Heisuke to sleep in his room, but the warmth in my chest evoked by his words of gratitude stayed with me for a good long time. For a good long while. Despite the predicament we were in, I felt very peaceful. I'm going to go get some more water. I will be right back. And I'm back. A few days passed after the incident. Sanan showed no signs of acting suspicious. However, we continued to monitor him carefully, knowing what a cautious man he was. I snuck a glance towards Sanan as I prepared dinner.
雪村君、私の顔に何かついていますか?
Oh, no, nothing like that.
体があるわけでもないのに、男の顔をちらちらと覗き見るのは感心しませんね。それとも何か気になることでもあるのでしょうか?
No, not really. I glanced over at Heisuke, hoping he would help me out of this awkward conversation.
こいつさ、きっと不安なんだよ。もしかしたら今日の飯が三男さんの口に合わねえんじゃねえかって。三男さんって舌が肥えてそうだろ。だからさ。
What kind of an excuse are you giving me, Heisuke?
雪村くんが作る食事を口にするのは これが初めてではありませんが。
まあそれはそうだけどさ。
Heisuke was doing his best to come up with a plausible excuse, but due to either terrible improvisational skills or the pressure of standing up to Sanan's scrutiny, he failed.
まあいいでしょう。それではいただきます。
Yes. Before all of the other soldiers had departed for Kofu, the dining room had been a lively scene. Eating dinner, just the three of us, was silent to an unsettling degree.
腕を上げましたね、雪村くん。
は？
この菜の花のごま和えですよ。絶品です。
Oh, is that so? Thank you very much.
すっげえうまい。新八さんも佐野さんも残念だったよな。こんなにうまいものを食えねえんだから。
Typical case of love improves cooking. Well, it could equally be a we've had a lot more practice at this point. But yeah.
甲府に行ったみんなはちゃんと飯食ってんのかな。
Heisuke, as Hijikata had mentioned in our last conversation, victory was far from assured.
心配はいりませんよ。土方くんはそういった手回しが得意ですからね。
まあそうだよな。あの人そういうところは手抜かりないし。今回は近藤さんが指揮を取るらしいから負け戦なんてさせるわけねえよな。千鶴、ご飯のおかわりいいか？
Of course. Please give me a second. I'll get some for you right away. I stood up and walked to the container of rice, and I scooped a large portion into his bowl. Having him enjoy his dinner and enough to ask for seconds made all of the effort I'd put in the kitchen worth it. Here you go. There are plenty of servings left, so please don't hold back.
お、ありがとよ。
Heisuke lifted his chopsticks to fill his mouth with a fresh serving of rice. But then he stopped himself. It was sudden, as if he'd remembered something. What's the matter?
いや、こうやって飯だけで腹を満たすことができれば楽なのになって思ってさ。
Oh.
あ、ごめん。別に変な意味はねえんだ。
No, I'm sorry. That was a strange question. The awkward silence was deafening.
ごちそうさまです。私はそろそろ失礼しますよ。
Oh, so soon? There's more food if you'd like.
さすがにこれ以上は食べられませんよ。私は食が細いもので。
Sanan stood up with his tray. Oh, please leave it there. I'll be collecting and washing them later anyway, so right there is fine.
いえ、これくらいなら自分でできますよ。君はゆっくりくつろいでいてください。
It sounds like Sanan is volunteering to do the washing up.
他の大使がいるところだと何かと気詰まりでしょうからね。お互いに。
Sanan left the conversation at that, quietly exiting from the room. As soon as his footsteps were out of earshot, I turned to Heisuke and whispered to him. Sanan's acting the same as usual.
まあ、あの人は物事に動じねえたちだしな。
Or is he just giving us a reason to do stuff? Well, yes, that could also be it. That could also be him removing himself from the position of third wheel in this room.
俺たちが疑ってることも多分見抜いてるだろうし。
Or it could be a case of excusing himself so that he can go do other things. Right.
さてと、ごちそうさま。俺全片付けてくる。
Oh, no. Let me. Oh, why don't you get some sleep, Heisuke?
いいって。三男さんの様子を見てくるついでだし。お前はここで待っててくれ。よし。
Heisuke picked up his tray and left the common room. I sat patiently until Heisuke returned. Oh, welcome back. So, what was Sanan up to?
何か資料みたいなものを読んでたぜ。
Oh, more paperwork.
多分行動さんのところで見つけたやつじゃないかな。
I see. Do you think that'll be enough to occupy him from going out tonight? Whether or not Sanan had a hand in the Fury's murdering spree in Edo was yet to be determined, but we could take solace in knowing that there would not be any murders tonight, assuming he was as busy within the headquarters as we'd expected.
どうだろうな。警戒しておくに越したことはねえんじゃねえ。
You have a point. The conversation trailed off, leaving us sitting in awkward silence. The only sound around us was the busy chirp of insects. Nights had gotten warmer lately, and days with pleasant weather were becoming more frequent.
なあ。
What is it, Heisuke?
お前こっちに戻ってきてからどこかに出かけたか？
No, not really. I think the only chance I've had to leave the compound was when we all went to my house.
なんだよ。久しぶりの故郷なんだし、いろいろ見に行ってくればいいじゃないか。
But what is there to do?
この間瓦版で読んだんだけどさ、浅草の花屋敷ってとこすげえらしいぞ。花がいっぱいあるんだってさ。お前そういうの好きだろ？
Yes, I really like flowers.
浅草なら近くに芝居小屋もあるし、大使の誰かに頼んで連れて行ってもらえばいいんじゃね？
Sure. That sounds lovely and all, but why do I have to ask one of the other warriors? Why can't you take me, Heisuke? Probably because it's during the day.
俺は
Heisuke's wide eyes suddenly looked so sad. After a moment, he laughed self-derisively.
バカだな。行けるわけねえだろ。俺夜しか出歩けねえし。
Heisuke. What words of comfort could I offer him? Well, I want to go with you! I want to go with you, Heisuke. The Hanayashiki, the theatre. None of that would be as fun with anyone else. There's no way I could have fun knowing you'd be back at the compound all by yourself.
しずる。そんなこと言ったってどうしようもねえだろ。俺だってお前と一緒に。
Heisuke immediately stopped himself mid-sentence, his voice trailing off.
いや、なんでもね。
He looked away from me. It seemed like he didn't want me to press the issue any further. Yet again, the room became silent, save for the insects chirping outside the window.
俺さ、あと何回こうやって夜を過ごすことができるんだろうな。
Heisuke's eyes still held a trace of innocence, but it was clouding over with loneliness. Back then, he was so warm and cheerful. Remembering how he'd used to smile made my heart ache. I'm sure there are so many. Just look at Senan. It's been 3 years since he's become a Fury. And he's doing just fine. Even if using your powers shortens your lifespan, maybe it won't shorten it as much as you think, Heisuke.
そうだといいけどな。
Heisuke's lips curled into a small smile, but I didn't think he actually believed me. I wanted so badly to be closer to him. It felt so awful that all I could offer were impersonal, meaningless words of encouragement. I gazed out of the window at the stars above and made a wish. May dawn never break. The sun, the war, or the passage of time itself. I wish that they would rob no more of my precious time with Heisuke. Chapter 2, March 1868. By the time March arrived, that should have been capitalized, the only communication we'd received was a single letter. The Shinsengumi, it read, had suffered an embarrassing defeat against the Imperial Army at Kofu Castle. Later on, this information had proved to be false, as the battle's verdict was yet to be determined. However, Hijikata had made it clear that a difficult battle was waiting for them. We held our breaths, nervously waiting for word of the safe return of our friends and comrades. Until finally, we had our answer.
ようやく着いたか。
今回ばかりはさすがに死ぬかと思ったぜ。
新八さん、佐野さん、無事だったんだな。
ああ、見ての通りだぜ。
Wait, is it just the two of you? Where are the rest of the men?
撤退するときバラバラになっちまったな。他の大使連中もそのうち戻ってくるはずだぜ。生きてりゃな。
ってことは、やっぱり戦には。
全部近藤さんがいけねえんだよ。あの人がいなきゃ負け戦にはならなかったはずなのにな。
俺も新八と同じ意見だ。今回ばかりはさすがに頭抱えちまったぜ。
Both Nagakura and Harada returned with angered spirits, visibly disturbed by what transpired. What on earth had happened in Kofu?
平助、土方さんはもう戻ってきてるのか。
まだだけど、甲府で何があったのか一応三男さんに知らせておいた方がいいんじゃないかな。三男さんも戦のことは気になってるはずだから。
だな、そうするか。
Nagakura and Harada both heaved exhausted sighs as we made our way to Sanan.
なるほど。状況はよくわかりました。
Harada and Nagakura recounted the events of Kofu. The outcome was even worse than Hijikata had anticipated. Kondo insisted on lingering in Hino, his hometown, delaying their convoy's arrival to Kofu Castle. Hino, in town located on Koshu Kaido in Bushu Tama. Hijikata's hometown is located there. Yep, we are getting a summary here. As a result, the Imperial Army was able to take the castle before our men arrived. If this hasn't presented enough of a disadvantage, the enemy utilized the same weaponry that the Sacho had employed to handily crush our forces at Tobafushimi. Seeing this, Nagakura and Harada implored Kondo to order the retreat, but Kondo flat out refused. As a result, many of our men had lost their lives.
もうあの人とはやっていけねえよ。近藤さんは大将の器じゃねえ。
ああ、あの調子で指揮を取られたんじゃ命がいくつあっても足りねえぜ。
別に新選組にいなきゃ薩長と戦えねえってわけでもねえしな。
Both Heisuke and I exchanged startled glances. Surely Nagakura and Harada wouldn't leave.
早まらないでくださいと言いたいところですが、すでに心が離れている人を無理に引き止めることもできませんね。お好きにどうぞ。ただ、無断でここを出ていくことだけは控えてくださいね。
After offering his counsel, Sanan nodded curtly and left for his room.
なあ、新八さん、本当に出ていくつもりなのか？
一応近藤さんが戻ってきた後、話はするつもりだけどな。
佐野さんも
近藤さんたちには世話になったし、恩返しして気持ちはあるんだが、これから先もあんなことを繰り返されたんじゃ大使連中にも申し訳ねえしな。
Their departure would ultimately depend on how the conversation with Kondo went, but it seemed their hearts were set.
エスケ、お前も俺たちと一緒に来ねえか？
え？
はっきり言っちまっていいんだぜ。飲みたくもねえ落ち水を飲まされて羅刹になんてされちまって、さすがにもうあの人たちには付き合いきれねえだろ。
このままここにいたらどんな無茶を言いつけられるか分かったもんじゃねえしな。
俺、
Heisuke seemed to waver at the invitation from the two he considered his closest friends. His gaze trembled slightly, as if he struggled to find a solid answer, and then he pursed his lips.
気持ちだけ受け取っとくよ。
平介、お前。
二人とも誤解してるみてえだけど、俺無理やり落ち水を飲まされたわけじゃねえから。死にそうになった時、三男さんにどうしても生き延びてえかどうか聞かれて、あの薬を飲むって決めたのは俺だから。近藤さんたちのせいじゃねえ。それに羅刹になっちまった俺が新選組を離れるなんてできるはずねえだろ。
Yeah, Heisuke can't exactly leave, that's... yep. Info on the Furies indeed.
そんなの俺が土方さんに掛け合ってどうにでもしてやるって。
いいんだ。あの時せっかく拾った命だから、 この命で何ができるのか、ここでもう少し考えてみてえから。
Neither Nagakura nor Harada seemed pleased with his response.
たくお前は頭が足りねえくせに妙に一本気っつうか。
それ佐野さんにだけは言われたくねえぞ。
何言ってやがんだよ。せっかく誘ってやったのに俺たちの恋を足毛にしやがって。
まあこんな白状者のことはさっさと忘れちまおうぜ。勝手に一人でくたばりやがるってんだ。
ひってえ言い草だな。なんなんだよも
う。ところで千鶴ちゃん、なんか食うものねえか。ずっと荒木同士だったから腹が減っちまったよ。
Oh, just 1 second. There are plenty of leftovers from supper. I'll get them ready for you.
気が利くじゃねえか。当然酒もついてるんだよな。
No, no sake.
なんだよ、固いことは一個なしだろ。せっかく生きて帰ってこられたんだし。
そうそう、ちょっとぐらいならいいじゃねえか。こうやって新髪さんたちと飲めるのも今のうちだけかもしれねえんだしさ。
As much as I hated to admit it, Heisuke raised a good point. Fine, but just a little, okay? I think everyone's a little bit on edge, but don't go causing a ruckus.
ありがとうよ、千鶴。
Heisuke, Harada, and Nagakura had a splendid time drinking well into the wee hours of the morning. They all seemed cheerful, but that might have been due to the parting they knew would soon be upon them. Heisuke seemed keenly aware of this, sadness flashing across his face from time to time. By the next afternoon, some of the other men arrived. Kondo, Hijikata, Saito, and Soma all returned with their respective troops, and the mood was hushed all around the compound. Hajime Saito, captain of the 3rd Division of the Shinsengumi. He is a left-handed master of Iai. He was temporarily associated with Kashitaro Ito's group under the commander's secret orders. Kazue Soma, the chief's page. He left the shogunate army and joined the Shinsengumi. He has a serious personality. Nagakura was quick to pull Kondo aside to air his grievances. I waited patiently to see how it turned out when...
そんじゃあみんな世話になったな。他の奴らにもよろしく伝えといてくれ。
So, the discussion with Kondo didn't go well?
なあ、あの人があそこまで石頭だとは思わなかったぜ。
まあ、石頭はお互い様だろうがな。
お二人がいなくなると寂しくなります。
本当だよな。長倉さんたちには世話になったもんな。夕飯のおかずを取られたり、稽古で散々叩きのめされたり、面倒な雑用を押し付けられたり。
おう、野村、お前も随分皮肉がうまくなったじゃねえか。
Risaburo Nomura, the chief's page, a warrior that joined the Shinsengumi at the same time as Soma. Being close in age with Soma, they're often together.
最後に一発忘れられねえ思い出を作ってやろうか。ああ、
いりませんよ、暴力反対。
そういえば雪村君、東堂君の姿が見えませんが。
Shimada glanced around the room. Hi, Shimada. An officer in the Shinsengumi as well as a spy with the watch. He was one of the Shinsengumi's earliest members. He participated in the Battle of the Ikeda Inn and other incidents in Kyoto. He's also had a haircut. I invited him to join us for the send-off, but all Heisuke said was, "Don't worry about me," and wouldn't budge. I'll try fetching him again.
いや、必要ねえさ。別にこれが根性の別れってわけでもねえしな。
But
いいんだよ。あいつに言ってやりてえことは全部夕べのうちに言ったつもりだし。
are you sure about this?
ああ、同じお天道様の下で戦ってりゃ、そのうちまた会えるさ。
I was reluctant to say goodbye, but... Alright. Be safe, you two.
おう、それじゃあな。近藤さんたちのことよろしく頼むぜ。
Nagakura and Harada gave us one last warm grin. Without another word, they turned their backs to us and walked out of the front gate. As I watched them disappear into the horizon, a thought came to me. Although there was no way of knowing how many years Heisuke had shaved off his life, I hoped he would be able to see them again someday. After the sun set,
あれ
Heisuke awoke from his slumber, stumbling clumsily into the empty room. You just missed Nagakura and Harada.
そっか。なんつうかあっけないな。
Shouldn't you have been there to see them off?
いや、必要ねえよ。一生の別れってわけじゃねえし。縁があれば、また会うこともあるだろうしな。
Strangely enough, Heisuke echoed the same sentiment shared by Harada earlier today. Most likely, they both felt like saying goodbye now would mean they would truly never see each other again. And so they preferred a casual, nonchalant way of parting, pretending they were only going away for a little while. Heisuke? Do you really think you made the right choice, not going with Nagakura and Harada? Although the secret that Heisuke was alive, let alone had become a fury, was not known to the public, I was sure that if Heisuke had wanted to, Hijikata would have let him leave.
ああ。俺はここでやらなきゃならねえことが残ってるから。
Like what? Heisuke went silent, pondering to himself.
ある人のことが心配なんだ。あのまま新八さんたちと一緒に新選組を出ちまったら、そいつのことを見捨てることになっちまうから。そうなったら俺、きっと死ぬまで後悔すると思う。
Heisuke spoke. He turned his head and looked towards me. His wide eyes were incredibly earnest. Staring deeply into them made it hard to breathe somehow. Surely, the person Heisuke had been worried about was... Oh boy! Is it me? What do we think? Who's Heisuke worried about abandoning? Because I could see it being either. But also, like, couldn't we have also left? Like, surely that's an option. We've already been given a hint. Yeah! It's us, right? Maybe I was overthinking it. I recalled the conversation we'd shared as we left Osaka Bay, following the events of Toba Fushimi. Osaka, the biggest city in western Japan, the Shogun's military base is in Osaka Castle. Between joining the Guardians of the Imperial Tomb, leaving the Shinsengumi, and drinking the Water of Life. Guardians of the Imperial Tomb, an organization that guarded the Emperor's tomb. It was formed by Kashitaro Ito after his departure from the Shinsengumi. It was a period of change, reflection, and unforeseen consequences for Heisuke. But he confided in me that my presence gave him the confidence to see through it all. So, logically, are you talking about me? Well, that would be a yes then. Am I wrong? Of course I am. There's no way. I'm so sorry. I think I may have gotten ahead of myself. How embarrassing. Huh? He didn't seem like he'd meant to say that out loud. He stood frozen to the spot, and for a moment an awkward silence filled the room. Well then, the person you're worried about is me? Heisuke scratched at his rosy cheeks, looking extremely uncomfortable until... But why? You're having a much harder time than I am.
俺は別にいいんだよ。男だし戦えるしさ。新選組にも自分で望んで入隊したんだし。でも、お前は違うだろ。
Heisuke was always so kind. I wanted him to put himself first, but for now, expressing my gratitude would have to do. Thank you, Heisuke. That means the world to me. He was so kind-hearted that he looked out for me even when he himself was having a hard time. It honestly made me happy.
そういや、三男さんは今どうしてるんだ?
You know, I haven't seen him since last night.
本当か? まさか勝手にどこかへ出かけてるんじゃねえだろうな。俺ちょっと様子を見てくる。
Are you going to be okay by yourself?
ガキ扱いするなよ。じゃあちょっくら行ってくるから。
Heisuke had one foot out of the door when... Uh-oh. He crumpled to his knees, desperately moaning in pain. Here we go again. His hair instantly turned white and his eyes burned with a fiery red light. Heisuke! Is this bloodlust?
やっぱりあの二人についていかなくて正解だったかもな。
I'm just gonna make saves every time we have to do this. Will the medicine still work? Heisuke, the medicine. I'll go fetch it. Just sit tight. I sprinted to the bedroom, grabbing the medicine from atop my table before running straight back to him. Here, take this. Slowly so you won't choke.
ありがと
As he took in deep, strained breaths, Heisuke put the bitter medicine into his mouth. But nothing happened. Does it still hurt? It should kick in any minute now.
まあ、あくまでも気休めだって三男さんも言ってたし、そのうちこの薬も効かなくなっちまうかもしれねえな。
Well. What? Heisuke, just hold on. I'm here. I stayed with him and rubbed his back until the medicine took effect. His episode didn't pass until well into the night. Yeah, medicine is basically just an endure, right? Just an endure now. The Shinsengumi would depart from Edo, passing through Nagareyama to arrive in Aizu. Nagareyama, located northeast of Edo, was prosperous due to its convenient location by the Edo River and Tone Canal, known for its production of mirin, sweet wine for cooking. Aizu domain, clan related by blood to the Tokugawa clan, which was put in charge of the office of the Kyoto Military Commissioner. They supported the Shinsengumi in Kyoto. This news came not too long after Nagakura and Harada's departure. It came so suddenly that the warriors had to scramble to get ready for departure. I too did my parts before it came time to leave. How's the level? Good point! Good question! Mid! We're doing fine! It's definitely fine. Yes. I noticed we were short on medical supplies and medicine, so I wanted to fetch some before we moved to Nagareyama. What? I mean, are you sure? Heisuke shot a quick glance towards Sanan's room. Ah, Hijikata's back, huh? Good point. Then I'd love for you to join me. After making the rounds at the shops, we'd finally amassed what we'd needed for our medical stock, and we leisurely strolled back towards the compound. Commotion rumbled on the other side of the street, with crowds of people chanting, "Isn't it great? Isn't it great?" with great fervour. Isn't it great? A colloquial phrase used in a spate of chaotic festivals, religious celebrations, and other spontaneous activities that spread across Japan near the end of the Tokugawa era. This phrase is emblematic of this movement, which today is considered to have been a form of decentralized political protest during a time of profound change. Right. Heisuke had never doubted that everything would be fine as long as Hijikata was here. And after suffering back-to-back defeats at both Tobafushimi and Kofu, things were beginning to change. Would we, as Heisuke put it, realistically have any chance of victory in Aizu? And beyond that, Did Heisuke even want to continue the fight out there? As we passed a dim alley, Heisuke blurted out.
まずい。千鶴、隠れるぞ。
Huh? Heisuke yanked my arm, leading me behind a building. Footsteps echoed ominously from the alley. By the sound of their pace, it was a man and a woman. Was it a couple?
たく、お師匠さんも無茶言ってくれるよな。ええじゃないか踊りしてる連中の絵姿を100枚素書きして持ってこいなんてさ。
でも勉強になるでしょ。
そりゃな。だけど踊ってるやつらに絡まれるといろいろ面倒なんだよ。あいつら金持ちの家に上がり込んで家の中をめちゃくちゃにしたりするって聞くしな。
うちは別に心配ないじゃない。盗まれるものなんて一つもないし。
もし商売道具を持っていかれたらどうすんだよ。紙だって絵の具だってただじゃないんだぞ。
Heisuke stared intently at the couple until they were out of earshot. His eyes were wide in astonishment, and he muttered under his breath.
龍之介のやつ、元気だったんだ。しかも一緒にいた子。
Oh, we're hiding because Heisuke is not supposed to be alive, and that is someone that he knows, huh? Ryunosuke Ibuki, a man that was staying with the Shinsengumi back when they were called the Roshigumi. Do you know them?
あ、まあ、知り合いっつうか、そんな感じだったんだ。
Then shouldn't you have said hello? We aren't going to be in Edo for much longer. You may never get the chance to do so again.
いいんだ。俺はもう死んだ人間だし。せっかく幸せそうにしてんのに、今さら俺たちのことを思い出させるなんて野暮じゃねえか。
Yeah, I wonder how I'd react if someone from my past that I knew was dead just like turned up and said hello to me in the street. Like, how would you even feel about that? The look on his face was different from the time he said goodbye to Nagakura and Harada. It was a little difficult to put into words, but it felt like some burden he'd been carrying had suddenly been laid bare. It was tinged with regret, and a sense that he had left something unfinished. Heisuke inhaled deeply through his nose and closed his eyes, pausing for a moment before releasing his exhale through his mouth.
あいつさ、まだ新選組にいた頃は芹沢さん、局長の一人だった人に毎日殴られてて。
Amo Serizawa, one of the chiefs during the Roshigumi days. He brought the water of life into the Shinsengumi. He was assassinated by Hijikata under orders from the Aizu domain. Chief, Shinsengumi Chief, a position that oversees the administrative and strategic organization of the group. Nice CG. It's like, he's crying, Nick! I mean, that doesn't stop it being a nice CG, but...
ここを出たらどうやって生きていけばいいのかわからないなんて言ってて、自分の生き方を見つけられずにあがいてたところが試衛館に流れ着く前の俺みたいで。
Shiei Hall, a dojo in Edo that taught the Tennen Rishin style, Its owner was Isami Kondo, the fourth generation head. Many Shinsengumi members studied or lived there.
なんか放っておけなかったんだけど、あいつちゃんと自分の道を見つけられたんだな。すっげえ幸せそうだった。
I'd noticed something peculiar as soon as Heisuke mentioned the words, smiling from ear to ear. Suddenly, a dreary expression covered Heisuke's face, as if he were a child who'd been abandoned to wander through the city alone. Heisuke turned away from me and continued to reminisce.
きっとあいつら、これから先もさ、二人で苦労していくんだろうな。いや、好きな相手と一緒にいられるんだから、どんなに苦労してもどうってことねえか。あと数年も経てば可愛い子供が生まれたりするのかな。子供もそのうちどんどん大きくなってじいさんばあさんになる頃にはたくさんの孫に囲まれてさ、俺はそんな幸せなんて多分絶対手に入れられねえけど。
Ouch! Heisuke, seeing his old friend living happily, unable to even briefly call out to him now that he was a fury, looking into a future devoid of all the little happy moments that humans took for granted. I could only imagine the pain and heartbreak he must feel. I couldn't bear to see him standing there, so I softly nestled in close to him. I'm here with you. Even if everyone else were to disappear, I would still be here right beside you, Heisuke. His back shivered under my touch.
バカだなお前。俺いつ寿命を使い果たしちまうかわからねえんだぞ。そんな俺と一緒にいたっていいことなんてなんもねえだろ。
His tone was derisive. I'm not staying with you because I expect to gain something from it. Maybe we couldn't be together forever. Maybe the day we parted would come sooner than expected. Nevertheless, I wanted to be with him. I just wasn't sure if I was able to properly convey that to him.
本当、物好きだよな。お前って。
His voice was still trembling, as if he were crying. But he seemed a tad more lively than before. And so, the Shinsengumi's final night in Edo came. A knock upon my door startled me.
雪村先輩、まだ起きてらっしゃいますか？
Soma! Yes, I am. Is everything okay?
来客です。何でも先輩にお聞きしたいことがあるとかで。
Me? A visitor? Who could it have been? Is it Senhime? I was a little confused, and I cautiously followed Soma to greet my surprise guest.
あ、千鶴さん。夜分遅く申し訳ありません。
Not Sen. What's going on, Kimigiku? I heard you had something to ask of me?
姫様があなたの招きに応じてこちらにいらしているはずですが。
Well, shit! Unfortunately, Kiku, we didn't send a message to San. Which means we have a problem.
いつまで経ってもお戻りにならないので、何かあったのではと思いまして。
What? Are you sure about this? I haven't sent any message to Sen.
それは本当ですか？今日の夕刻、姫様は松本先生を通じてあなたからの文を受け取ったはずなのですが。
What? I assure you I've sent no letter for Sen.
ということは、何者かがあなたの名を語って。
Someone... But there are only a few people who know Sen is in Edo, or even about her connection with Dr. Matsumoto, isn't that right?
ええ、あなた方と松本先生以外にはお伝えしていないはずです。
So that means that the only other people who know about her whereabouts are myself, Heisuke, and Sanan. Of course! Sanan was with us the day we encountered her. He was fully aware of how to reach Sen. Just then.
あれ、千鶴、それに確か君菊さん。
Heisuke stepped into the quiet courtyard, perhaps having overheard us. Heisuke, where is Sanan?
三男さんなら部屋で本を読んでるはずだけど。
Kimigiku, wait here, I'll go check up on him. I ran towards Sanan's room. When I got to his door, there was no sign of him. It was too late. It seemed he had snuck out of the compound without any of us noticing.
千鶴、どうだった？三男さんいたか？
He wasn't in his room.
ってことはまさか。
すぐに行方を追いましょう。嫌な予感がします。
Not wanting to waste a second more, Kimigiku, Heisuke, and I bolted in search of Sanan. The nerve of him to forge my name in order to trick Sen into coming to meet him. Just what could Sanan be plotting? A creeping sense of dread took hold of me. I could only pray that Sen was safe. The three of us split up to widen our search, but...
くそ、見つからねえな。三男さんどこに行っちまったんだ。
It's almost time for us to meet back with Kimigiku.
そうだな。見つけてくれるといいんだけど。
Just as Heisuke mentioned the thought, a violent gust appeared out of nowhere, forming into a whirlwind. Kimigiku stepped from out of the gust.
お二人ともいかがでしたか？
Unfortunately not. Were you able to find anything at all, Kimigiku?
私の方も手がかりを見つけ出すことはできませんでした。
Heisuke, can you think of anywhere, any place at all that he might have possibly gone to? I mean, have we checked where we grew up?
そう言われてもな。あの人のことだから俺が予想できるような場所に行くってことはねえんじゃねえかな。
Oh no! Suddenly the panic began to feel very, very real. Whatever purpose Sanan had for questioning Sen was alarming, but for him to do so in this manner? Was all of it a ploy to obtain more information on the Furies from her? What sense was there in him calling her out without telling us? After a moment, Kimigiku locked eyes with us.
お二人ともひとまず屯所に戻られてはいかがでしょ
う。そうだな。もしかしたら三男さんが戻ってきてるかもしれねえし。
Where are you off to from here, Kimigiku?
私はもう少し 姫様の行方を探してみます。姫様はあなたや風間千景と同じ純血の鬼ですから、人間やまがいものに遅れを取ることはないでしょうが。
Yeah, you'd have to hope she's okay, given that she does have a large amount of power. But
万が一ということもありますから。もし何かあればすぐにお伝えします。それでは。
Right. Please be careful, Kimigiku. Kimigiku smiled graciously in return. With that, she vanished into the ether, leaving a mist-like cloud in her wake.
千姫、早く見つかるといいな。
Yeah. Both of us nodded in unison, and we turned around to head back to the compound. When we arrived, Heisuke blurted out,
おい、千鶴、見ろ！あそこに立ってるのは。
Oh, good. She's okay. I glanced in the direction to which Heisuke was pointing, and lo and behold, there stood Sen and Sanan. The two of them appeared to be engaged in a heated argument, but we were far too far to hear.
何を話してるんだ？もう少し近づいてみるか。
Okay. Heisuke and I tiptoed as quietly as humanly possible. We were just within range of hearing them when Sen suddenly shot a glance in our direction. Before either of us had the chance to react, Sanan took advantage of her distraction, forcefully grabbing a hold of her to draw her in. What we witnessed next was completely unexpected. I'm not so sure it's unexpected. Okay, maybe it is unexpected. I was expecting a bite. Sanan planted his mouth upon Sen's, forcing her into an unwanted aggressive kiss. The sight had me frozen to the spot. Sen tried to push him away. However, his grip on her was so strong she was unable to free herself at all. After the painfully uncomfortable moment, Sanan finally let her go. Sen coughed violently, drops of something thick and red dripping out from her mouth. Okay, there was biting involved. Was that blood? Oh no, please, anything but that. Oh shit! No, there was... Oh shit! Remember what Sanan said? About how in theory a Fury could feed their blood to someone? Not Sen's blood. Oh no, please, anything but that. Sanan turned to face us, and plastered across his face was a grin that made my hair stand on end, I assume.
おや、東堂君に雪村君、どこかにお出かけでしたか。それともわざわざ見届けに来てくれたのでしょうかね。彼女が羅刹となる様を。
羅刹だって。三男さん、あんたまさか落ち水を。
正確には違いますね。私はもう落ち水など必要とはしていません。この私の体を流れる血そのものが落ち水と化しているのですから。
Yeah, which blood is stronger? Can you turn a demon into a vampire? What happens?
私の血を与えれば人は羅刹となり、私が下したどんな命令にでも従うようになる。
Oh no! So he hasn't necessarily been out there murdering people. He's been out there turning people into furies. Yes, not only do they become furies, but they heed my every order. Well, that makes sense. Given that, vampire lore-wise, right, isn't a vampire feeding their blood to someone something that turns them into a thrall, not another vampire? I feel like that's the thing.
Watashi wa mohaya ただの羅刹ではありません。人の世のノリにとらわれることなく血を求め続けた結果、羅刹を超える羅刹となったのです。
I had no idea whether or not Sanan was telling the truth, but behind his nefarious eyes was an insanity that I had never seen in any previous encounter with a Fury. Sen, stay strong! I tried sprinting over to Sen in an effort to help her, but Sanan had other ideas.
彼女に気安く触れることは許しませんよ。北の地に築く我ら羅刹の国の名手となってもらう身ですからね。
Fury Kingdom?
そうです。比類なき力を持った純血の鬼さえもこの私の前に膝を屈した。彼女の存在は千の言葉を尽くすより雄弁に我々の力を物語ってくれるでしょう。
He did this to prove the power of Furies? Senan, don't tell me! That's why you did such a thing to Sen?
そんなこととはご挨拶ですね。
Well, yes, they're very selfish, dude.
人より鬼より優れた我々がこの国を滑るものとなる。これ以上に崇高な目的があるとでも。
三男さん、あんたおかしくなっちまったんじゃねえのか。
私は至って正気ですよ。まあ理解してもらおうとは思いませんがね。
Isuke drew his sword.
そんなことさせるわけにはいかねえ。力ずくでもあんたを止めてみせるぜ。
止めるですって。東堂君、君がそこまで愚かだとは思いませんでしたよ。君ごとき左手だけでも叩き伏せることができますが、せっかくですからあなたの力を試させてもらいましょうか。姫君、出番ですよ。そこの二人を殺しなさい。
Senan's eyes glowed with an eerie light, staring into Sen.
誰？あんたなんかの命令を。
Sen gritted her teeth, resisting Senan's command. Her thick head of hair was damp with sweat. It dripped down her temple, her cheek. It looked like it took everything in her power to resist.
お、まだ正気を保っているとは、なかなか気丈な方ですね。さすが純血の鬼だけある。これはしつけがいがあるというものです。あっさりと従ってくれた彼らとは違ってね。
Senan whirled around. Peeking through the darkness were dozens of red eyes gazing at us. Atop the roof, in the shadows of the wall, inside the mansion. We were completely surrounded. I couldn't even begin to fathom how he'd amassed so many of them.
なんだよこいつら。羅 前にいた奴らは風間たちの襲撃を受けた時や戸隠の戦、それからこの間の騒ぎでほとんど死んじまったはずだよな。三男さん、あんたまさか江戸の人たちを。
力を与え人を超える生き物に生まれ変わらせてあげたのですよ。
Sanan's eyes glimmered eerily behind his thick frames. There was not a hint of remorse in them. He saw nothing wrong with turning all these people into furies.
ずっと思ってた。三男さん、あんたはすげえ人だって。甘っちょろい俺とは違って何を残して何を切り捨てるべきか情を交えず正しい判断を下せる新選組を大きくしていくためには絶対に必要な人だって。こんなやり方だけは何があっても絶対に認められねえ。
Isuke was enraged, fighting back tears as he spat all of his pain at Sanan.
俺たちは上洛してから5年間ずっと今日の人たちを守ってきたんだろう。あんたは新選組幹部だった頃の志まで捨てるつもりなのかよ。
Isuke screamed, but Sanan barely even lifted his eyebrows.
忘れてしまいましたよ。人であった頃のことなど。何の役にも立たない情など、君はこれから先もずっと抱えて続けるつもりですか？
Sanan turned once more to face Sen.
鬼の姫君に羅刹の白無垢をまとってもらうにはしばしの時間が必要なようです。お色直しに少々時間をいただくとしましょうか。
待て三男さん。
Isuke tried to lunge for Sanan, but a troop of furies blocked his path.
お前ら邪魔するんじゃねえ。
Isuke swung at them. However, there were so many of them that as soon as he cut one down, another stepped in to fill its place. Isuke! I drew my Kodachi to help him, but... the tide never stopped. We cut and cut, but there was always more. Sanan watched us struggle out of the corner of his eye. He turned to look at Sen once more. As their eyes locked, Sen's body suddenly went limp and she dropped to the floor unconscious. Sanan lifted her in his arms.
それでは東堂君、生きていればまたお会いしましょう。君のその甘さを捨てない限り、何百回戦おうとこの私に勝利することはできないと思いますがね。
A wall of furies blocked our sight of Sanan and Sen, creating an impenetrable blockade.
お前らどけよこのあの二人を追いかけねえと。
Each swing of Heisuke's blade produced a lurid splatter of blood, drenching him from head to toe. Don't let the blood get on you! If you get bloodlust, you'll...
無茶言うんじゃねえよ。これだけの数がいるのに。くそくそくそ俺はどうして。
Heisuke cried out until I thought his throat would rip. He brandished his sword and killed fury after fury after fury. How long did this all last? By the time it was over, the dismembered and mutilated corpses were scattered everywhere the eye could see. Heisuke stood in the middle of a nauseating miasma of thick, pungent blood.
取り逃がしちまった。
Heisuke looked like he'd bathed in blood.
ごめんな、千鶴。お前の友達助けてやれなくて。
I just shook my head. Don't worry about that. There wasn't much else I could say. Every single one of the Furies laying here had once been ordinary people. None of them were criminals or thieves. Just innocent people living their lives in peace. And now they had their lives taken at the end of Heisuke's sword. He was too kind-hearted not to be absolutely devastated.
俺もきっとそう遠くないうちにこうなるんだろうな。
Heisuke.
罪もねえ人間をこんなに殺して自分だけ死にたくねえなんて虫が良すぎるもんだ。
He aimed his words onto himself, as if they had the power to cut him deep. He was blaming himself. If he could have torn his own heart out in repentance, I'm sure he would have. He wasn't crying, but I'm sure his heart was screaming out in pain.
寿命を使い果たして死んだ後はやっぱり地獄行き間違いなしかな。
I'm begging you, stop talking! I grabbed hold of Heisuke's sleeve, interrupting his tirade. I began sobbing uncontrollably. Why did Heisuke, who had never been anything but kind, have to be made to feel this way? No matter what anyone says to you, Heisuke, you haven't done anything wrong. I know that better than anyone. So please, don't put all the blame on yourself anymore. Heisuke murmured my name just once, and he said nothing else. Chapter 3, 1868, April. Well, on that absolutely wonderful note, I'm going to call it here for tonight. The end of that chapter. So, thank you very much for coming. It has once again been sad times with Kalla and Heisuke. And it will continue to be because this game is Angst Central. But it's been nice. We have what, 2 or 3 more streams of this at least? Yeah, maybe 4. So yeah, if you're new here and you've enjoyed your time, you've lost track of what day it is, haven't you, Nick? If you're new here and you've enjoyed your time, please consider subscribing to the channel. You can also follow me on social media, which is linked in the description box. The streaming schedule for this channel gets posted both over there on social media and over here on YouTube in the post tab of the channel. The next scheduled stream is Wednesday, 7 PM probably. And that's back to Pokemon Legends CA. So, hope to see you then or another time. Once again, thank you very much for coming. And this is Kalla signing out. See ya. Bye bye.